think both of them are legal. I threw the first one back because it looked small.
I heard you guys had a hell of a meal.
21.
I'm not.
Yeah, there typically is.
Well, it's the Adams County.
You wanna fill mine out?
And I was on the wrong month.
Close that Zoom in the background, maybe too.
Why didn't you tell me yesterday? I have no idea why I didn't do it. I got the agenda printed out and everything else, it says 10 o'clock right on it.
Morning, Jeff.
Morning. Was it just waiting guys why I hadn't done it? Watch you after. Oh.
Give them just a minute.
Yeah.
There you go.
I also got bread and rubber boots.
Oh, I'll grab it for you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, needed.
Hey, Rich.
Cynthia wants to make it through that.
Morning, I'll call the meeting to order. We have the voice amended agenda before us. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Supervisor Barkey, second by Supervisor Scott Pease. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Agenda is approved. We have the minutes from April 1st.
So moved.
Motion approved by Supervisor Rick Pease.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Kowarski. Any discussion or questions on the Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Minutes are approved. Public participation, I know we have some people signed up for that. We'll allow that when we discuss those, unless you want to talk about them, somebody wanted to talk about it and leave, that's fine too, but if you want to do it at that time. Okay. We'll start off treasurer's report.
Hi, everybody. It's KP. I'm one of Janny's deputies. She is actually finally on that vacation to Florida. So as you can see, we have the March report, cash report submitted there. If you have any questions, otherwise it's same as normal.
questions for the treasurer? Okay, thank you. Move on then to court counsel's report.
Good morning, everyone. As you can see by the report here, I've been quite busy last month. I did check on Von Briesen as to how many files or matters they are handling for us now. It's actually under 5 now, so and I've recently taken over another matter from them that we weren't getting completed, and I hope to have that, at least a draft of that, that's on the Leola assessor's plat, that maintenance agreement and such, to their attorney this week. I've got a lot of different versions that I've worked on, and this last week, Thursday and Friday, I spent time at a conference for the Wisconsin Association of County Corporation Councils in Green Bay. Was able to meet a lot of corporation councils that I had talked to by email and got to see their faces, and I got some ideas from them too, so I've developed another networking system there. But things are going well. As I said, been keeping very busy, and any questions on anything, please let me know.
Questions?
Skip 2 of them there.
Oh, yeah, well, you couldn't see my agenda on this, that way I connected to the internet. Questions for court counsel?
I actually got one. Do you see those other 5 cases being resolved soon that Von Briesen still has?
Yes, a couple, one was at least a planning and zoning. I think they're just working on getting that one resolved. And then there's an ongoing matter where an individual had threat to file a lawsuit, and they're just keeping their eyes on that one. So the other ones, I think also are just some follow-up matters on some matters they've been working on a long time. I think they should all be resolved shortly.
Thank you.
Are they gonna keep opioid litigation on also?
Actually, we've been in participation with that, so there is going to be a settlement. They're working on the settlement portion of it. Now they keep us updated on that, so as to what's going on, but we are in the loop on that now. I participate in all meetings on that.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move back then. Since Rich is busy at the moment, we'll go to the HR monthly report.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions about the monthly report?
Don't see any here, so
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the IT report then.
Morning, everybody, any questions?
I have a question.
Should we
What's the
repeat?
progress on the, am I on? Yeah. What's the progress on the board calculations and so forth?
On audio video,
Yeah.
audio video system?
Yep.
We have 2 quotes out of the 4, the other 2, one replied back to me earlier this week before they had a quote in.
See that?
One replied back to me earlier this week before they had a quote complete. And then a lot of them are slammed with work and trying to get equipment.
I don't know if this question is for you or Cynthia. Once we get that equipment in, are we gonna do most of our committee meetings in here then? Or what are we gonna do with Health and Human Services, Highway, and solid waste, saying that they meet in their locations.
We started working with Charlie to purchase a television and a web camera for the solid waste site. So that they can meet at solid waste as they want to. Highway already has a camera, or, a television. So we're looking at getting a camera for them as well. So that they can meet at Highway, and Health and Human Services has a device that they purchased with grant money previously that they used for the last HHS committee meeting when they actually went to their building, and they'll use again tonight.
In the HHS one, it seems like it's working fine, or?
Yeah.
If somebody misses one of those meetings, is that recordable, and how can somebody review that later?
The Zoom meetings can be recorded. That's gonna be a policy beyond my, my decision making. But we can record Zoom meetings. We are looking at actually streaming the county board meetings on YouTube and then retaining them there as well.
That's what I was hoping for.
Similar to what the school was.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? County clerk's report?
Any questions?
How's the workflow with just you and your assistant in there currently? Still going good?
Things seem to be going good, yep.
Mariana, those voting machines, I noticed there's 9 more, I think, being purchased. Will that conclude all those and everybody get trained?
We met with all the clerks, 2 weeks ago, and we talked about the general election and the possibility of putting it in through ARPA funds, to get enough of the voting pads to be able to use them for general elections also. So there might be more coming through the ARPA funds if it gets, qualified through that committee.
Is the goal to be consistent with all municipalities?
Correct.
What's the chance?
We will be all the same in the August primary.
Oh, good.
And I went to the Wisconsin Towns Association meeting and, told them that we had very good response from all the clerks in regards to the voting equipment that we provided for them.
Not to mention a cost savings to the county.
So like in the city of Adamsville, there's 4 or 5 wards now. Are they have all equal access then too?
We did request that they order more, machines. They have not placed an order yet. They do have the same machines. They have a DS200, so they are able to vote just like every other town.
Further questions, we'll move on to the county manager's report, monthly report first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. We'll start out with the public service announcement. This came my way by both municipalities, internal staff, and then even a supervisor approached me. But I'm just getting the message out there. It's not that I support this in any way, and it doesn't mean that although we're getting requests from municipalities to have a county presence at their meeting, not all of them want that. So I'm just putting it out there. May just want to reach out, I suppose. Next are accolades. I always like to call out department heads among their staff and peers when a job is well done. So Janet Leah, she was responsible for the reality days being a success. And so I'm just calling out a special thanks to a job well done. Go to page 2. There's a number of items that are still outstanding from the courthouse remodel. And Bill Runnels is dealing with this almost on a daily basis. He's having vendor problems and such, but I did outline them there. The cluster box that is installed now, and the departments are gonna have suite numbers as part of their address. And I believe there were 16 box numbers, so with that, there's gonna be like suite 1, suite 2 through 16, if you will. HVAC concerns there, it just continues, this is part of the community center and courthouse. And then the crosswalk, Bill is working with the city public works to get that crosswalk completed there from the parking lot across to the courthouse. Fairgrounds, there's been concern brought up about the drainage issue out of the fairgrounds. This project is officially going to be kind of earmarked for 2023. We can't rush it. I mean, this is something we have to actually go out there, and I address what we have to do out there. There's an engineer that's involved. And then, of course, the memorials, I gave you an update on the 2 memorials. And then if we go to page 3, in the middle of the page is an update on Highway M. We still haven't heard back from the grantee or DOJ or WisDOT on this, but there was a conversation over the phone, and Pat wasn't feeling too good about the questions they were asking, but they're asking the questions, right? So to me, they didn't say no. He tried to get them to say yes or no, and he couldn't get them to commit to an answer. So no news is good news at this point, right? So, and we do have an opportunity with the second phase there to get that in. I also provide you an update on County Highway Z and also other highway projects. At the bottom of page 3, there's an update for the Easton Dam. We're still looking at mid-May for the work to be completed, and of course, the restocking of the lake is a matter that will be in the fall. Lot 10, which was referred to earlier, so I just let you know that the update portion is that our corporation counsel has taken over the matter. We were kind of waiting to get feedback from Von Briesen, and I guess we weren't getting that to our satisfaction, I suppose, and then so Jeff just took that on. And if we go to the bottom of the page, you can see the Discover Media Works and also Thompson Communications. This is all part of the Uniquely Wisconsin program, or this is becoming a challenge. I will say that I actually have a meeting today scheduled with internal staff to try to get things moving. We're looking for people who are doing something that's great for the county, that's unique. It's something that makes us unique, something we offer here that other counties don't offer it. So it's not about tourism, because that's already well known, right? We're looking for craftsmen, the people. One person comes to mind is there's I guess a guy that uses a chainsaw to do wood carvings up in Rome. That's what we're looking for, people that do something unique around here. So I have a meeting today with some staff members to try to get a direction to go talk to people. And if we go to page 5, in the middle of the page, I touch on the library. We're looking at doing a chargeback, so maintenance, does service out there at the library. The same that they do for highway and also solid waste. Well, with those two, we do a chargeback of the time served, so the library is looking at that as well. We're not talking a lot, we're not talking huge dollars, but we just have to get everything the same, equity among all. At the bottom of the page, I mentioned the 2023 strategic plan. So that is already set in motion. Be expecting some surveys and some maybe a board retreat and such coming your way. On the last page, under finance, sales tax. So again, we're experiencing highs with the sales tax coming in, 74,000 and a 14% higher than last year. Were there any questions on the report?
First copies and then
Going back to the cluster boxes, Bob and me both sat on the building committee, and it was our thought that there's gonna be a mailroom behind the security office, that all the mail would be screened, including UPS packages and FedEx packages, and then put in individual mailboxes. Now we're gonna have 16 people going outside getting their mail, and they all should be screened again when they come back in, plus the mail. just seems to me that it would have been a better idea to have the officers down there screen the mail and put in their mailboxes behind the security. And then not have that many people going through the security process. What are your thoughts?
Mr. Chair? So this did get vetted through the department heads, and there was lengthy discussions about it. I know that we still have the mail room for big parcels and such, but when it comes to the mail, I think it was easier for our post office. There was consideration with the United States Post Office, the postmaster, and having to do all of this, carrying a big, I guess, box of mail, but I do know that this was vetted, and looks like you want to say something, Rich.
So I think the one thing that you should be aware of is, I'm not sure what the requirement is, but there are certain offices in the courthouse that are required to maintain and only get mail through their own offices. And I would say that for sure that it's the clerk of courts, possibly the register of deeds. So that is why we probably have our current mailbox, PO box system. So this is in essence just consolidating those PO boxes into a box outside of the building. Like Cynthia said, I think the burden from the post office, because they don't deliver mail here, and I would lay odds that if we tried to get them to break it up, they would put a cluster box in as well and charge us for it. They treat us like an apartment building, but I think the main reason we have it, the cluster boxes, is because of those requirements for certain offices to have mail only accessible by their employees. So there will be an increase of screening, as you said, but currently right now, I think most of the offices are kind of going out and getting individual mail anyway. And we are, like Cynthia said, we are screening packages, and that mail room behind the security office is being used for that. There's also the plans to move the mail processing equipment out of the treasurer's office into that location as well.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that there is a cost savings because we're gonna do it at the post office boxes. There's a fee, so we're gonna be doing it like that.
Supervisor Taylor?
Yes, my question refers to the fairgrounds. We had originally talked about kind of a quick fix grading for this year. Now, considering that it's being pushed off till 2023, will that be for the total paving and everything at that time?
Mr. Chair, I would like to defer to Bill. Bill, are you on the meeting? Okay, I'm gonna refer you back to my report on page 2, the second paragraph under fairgrounds. This is where I get into the detail about there's some ground or some grading that has to happen. These are the engineers going out there to figure out what the proper drainage is. If we go out and we start, I guess, do the mill and overlay where we kind of take up the old stuff and lay down new, if it's not going to drain, it's going to be pointless to do that. So we want to make sure that when we move forward, that it's draining properly, and the engineers have to get involved. That is my understanding about what's going to be happening here in very short order. The first step is addressing the drainage issue, which is in that paragraph there. And what happened out there last year, when I was out there, I was doing the grandstand, the other side. There was a flash flood, just like a flash rain event that just caused all this water to just build up, and people were having to slosh through that. Of course, I make a joke that kids actually enjoyed it, but they did. It's like that stuff. But the parents did not, and there were people in wheelchairs that were leaving, and they were mad, and they vented to me. And I'm with you, Supervisor Taylor, that something needs to be done. But hopefully that was a unique event. It's not something that always happens out there. So we want to make sure that we do the right thing and not kind of put money to something and then have to redo it because it's not draining right. But this was a 2025 project. We did move it up a couple of years. Now, this isn't official because we have to do a budget amendment, but that's the plan. We're moving it up from 2025 to 2023.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Barton?
on that same note, We've talked about, again, through the building committee, that, that fairgrounds could possibly be a multi-use acreage. And I would not like to see us do an overlay or spend a bunch of money on blacktop until that is all sorted out and we know what and where we're putting things. So I would caution you, as far as the drainage issue, sounds good that you would have someone shoot that and make sure it will drain properly. But as far as blacktop, I think we have to wait on that unless it's simply a walkway or something like that. But overall overlay, I think is out of the question until we sort everything out. That's one of the things. And then you had another issue there. The PO boxes and so forth. Now, when that building was designed, nothing was said about that. We had gone through the mailbox type of things, and now it's all changed. And something should have been said then, or at least it should have been brought before the building committee.
Supervisor Reese.
I got a question on, media stuff too. Can this be put in the paper, Cynthia, so you can generate the interest of the public as to what you're looking for, as far as, you know, you need people to step forward or show, you know, their skills and whatnot? Because I think just putting it here isn't gonna get it, you know, that we should open it up to the public and let everybody have their say in what, you know, is gonna be on that, whatever it is, 30-second spot or 30-minute spot or whatever it is.
No other questions, so we'll move on to project status report. Kyle's gonna cover that.
Yep, so it's just the project status report. We have the admin and finance tab on there. The first item there, the RFP for investment services. So we're looking at moving forward with PMA for investment advisory services. And we have a resolution to join the Wisconsin Investment Services Cooperative. That's on the agenda today. And 2023 budgets, we're looking at starting that in June. Are there any questions on any of the projects on here?
Don't see any now. Thanks for keeping that updated. It's nice to have that, so we know where things are. So. Next, we'll go on to the ARPA work group then.
Yep, so if you scroll down on here, we have the spent ARPA funds is kind of the first area. That's $203,348. We have the obligated ARPA funds, which is about $2 million, and those are all the resolutions that have been passed by the county board. And then we have the anticipated projects down below. The ones highlighted in yellow, those should be on the agenda for today. And then all the way down at the bottom, you have the total funds spent, total funds obligated, total anticipated projects, and then remaining funds if all of those projects are completed. I think Friday we finalized the paperwork to get the second installment, that other $1.96 million. So we should be getting that shortly. Any questions on this?
Supervisor's copy.
I should have probably asked Cynthia this earlier, but I see the X-ray scanner in here being on here. And I see the old ones going to Marquette County. How much are we getting for that, and why are we keeping it just in case some billing comes up? We have the same problem which we did with this building addition, that we didn't have a X-ray machine for a while and a metal detector for a while, so that made the opening pushed back.
Kyle, did you have some input there? I know that Bill's not in the meeting, but I think that you would have, some of that backup.
Yep, so, I believe, actually, I talked to Bill on Friday about it. Marquette County gave it to us, I believe, years back for free. So we're just giving it back to them. It's really of no value or use to the county. The belt is, I think, taped together, and it's an old unit. The new, X-ray scanner, we were able to get part of it covered through a grant, and we're looking to cover the remaining balance through, ARPA funds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, quarterly report.
Okay, so, all right, on here, so this is the first quarter, so January to March of 2022. We have, like, the account description is the first column there. We have what we had budgeted for 2022. So you'll see the total amount for each, account. And then we have the fiscal year to date activity. So that's the activity through the end of March. And then the next column there, is the amount under or over budget. And then we have the, percentage of, revenues collected. So this first tab is just the revenues. So what we're looking at is if it's under 25%, there's going to be a comment on there. There may just be a comment that the dollar amount is insignificant or the percentage amount is insignificant. So generally, it's like if it's under $5,000 of total revenue for the year, I just put that it's insignificant. Percentage is like 1 to 2% difference. If it's 1 to 2% low, I just put that it was insignificant at this point in time. But otherwise, there are comments on there, and then right there, Lyanna, I have that highlighted in red, that the department will likely not receive the budget amount in interest revenue. This could potentially change, though, if we're able to take full advantage of investment advisory services and they're able to get us a good return on our investments. Other than that, there were no other significant comments that weren't justified. So that's the revenue portion. Does anybody have any questions on the revenue portion? All right. So then on the expense side, it's kind of the same thing. So we have the 2022 budgeted amount, the fiscal year to date activity, the amount under or over. Over will be in parentheses there. And then we have the percent spent through March of this year. So if that percent is over 25%, you're going to see a comment on there. Right away, Corporation Counsel is over 25% on the year. They'll likely be over, and it's due to legal expenses for outside counsel that we incurred at the start of the year. It may not be over by too much, but it's looking like it will be over again, similar to last year. And that is the only one that I put on there. Does anybody have any questions on the expenses?
Right. Thank you, Tom.
Yep. And I did have another tab for solid waste, just kind of showing there. Just first quarter. So it's just revenue over expenses, just total revenue, total expenses. In that revenue, it does include tax levy. So it's showing a net profit of 815,000, but there are a number of journal entries at year end that we do, and essentially it's adding more expenses to the department. There's insurance allocation that we need to do, transfer over to debt service, depreciation expenses, that type of stuff. So while it looks okay for solid waste, year end does impact them significantly.
Supervisor Reed.
Having said that, are we gonna look at possibly be self-sufficient by the end of this year or beginning of next year? Or will it need to have levy money again?
We are in the middle of doing a cost of service analysis for the solid waste department. That should be done in like 3 to 4 months, I believe. We're having a kickoff meeting soon with NewGen Strategies and Solutions. That's the consultant that's completing the analysis. So they're going to put together what we should be charging for each of our different services, and we'll go from there. We're hoping that we may be able to implement it starting in 2023, and solid waste could come off the levy, but we'll see how drastic the changes are going to be at that point. I don't know if Cynthia had anything to add.
So I'll just add that in order to fix something that was off for years, we don't want to just all of a sudden do a catch up to the municipalities. So there may be a phase in. So I doubt that this is going to be fixed in 1 year. We're probably going to have to look out, do I dare say 5 years, to kind of make these small adjustments so the municipalities can properly budget for these increases over a number of years. But right now, we're just waiting to see how the report, what the report reveals.
Thank you.
Scott Payne?
Will all employees be involved in that audit? The reason I ask that is there's somebody out there that's given 2 times a report on like the routes for the drivers and stuff, and it's been turned back by management that we're not gonna do that. I think that's something that should be looked at. I mean, he's been an employee out there for several years. He should know the terrain and what it takes to make it a better route or save us some money. I just think that everyone's input should be put into that audit.
Mr. Chair. So in my manager's report, page 5 up at the top, there's a section there related to the quarterly meeting at solid waste where we do include the entire staff. And there's a number of bullet point items there. A lot of that is strategic planning and such. And this is the opportunity to hear from them. Now, as far as the external agency that's doing the analysis, I'm not sure if they're going to meet with the employees one-on-one, but I know for sure they're going to meet with those department heads or the division heads, the recycling, the routes, and then also the landfill. And of course, then the director for the entire area there. Again, so that kickoff is getting ready to start here. So for me to just say, yeah, they're gonna meet with the employees, I don't think so. I don't think so. They've got 3 months to get all this data put together. They're gonna rely on department head, division heads, and Kyle's gonna put the numbers together. But we're doing our effort in meeting with them on a quarterly basis as far as internally to share all this information and to get information from them too, brainstorming ideas.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, on that same note, when you hire an outside analyst consulting firm, they should not leave any stones unturned. And they should do whatever they have to do in order to get to some of the issues we've had through the years. And raising revenue is not the only solution. In fact, that might be one of the last solutions. all about efficiencies and finding all the nits and cracks that need to be filled. I've been through a couple of them with consulting firms, and when they leave no stones unturned, there's a positive result. And I would encourage anyone to get out of their way if in fact they elect to go to even the employees, or especially the employees probably.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome.
We'll move on then to, our action items. First one, discuss and interact on, second amended resolutions to implement, COVID-19 plan.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I'll just begin by saying that this, as it stands right now, is gonna sunset the end of, this month. If you recall that this was extended for 30 days, the last time this was, in front of, everyone. And now it's gonna sunset May 31st unless we kind of move this plan forward onto the full board for approval. So, and this relates to employee benefits. We're still having COVID cases internally, believe it or not. Without, obviously I can't get into detail, but a couple of members, had they not had this benefit, would have been faced with coming in or not having enough PTO. And if they come in, they have a chance of spreading it to departments, which can, I think you guys experienced where a department did close down 1 year, or, when all this began. Yes, the numbers are coming down. We're not out of the pandemic yet. So what's in front of you today is an extension to June 30. So we're just going out another 30 days with the benefits. What's also included in this is the airport situation. A discussion happened during the full board where a comment was made that the president, or there was this overturn of, I don't know if you want to touch on it, but I had Kyle actually contact FAA, who's behind the grant money. So instead of it being $10,000, it's actually $22,000 that we would potentially lose. We have 3 options. Kyle, do you want to share those 3 options that came directly from FAA?
Yep, let me pull up the memo here. Okay. Option 1 was to follow the stipulations as outlined in the grant and receive the ARPA funds. So that would be having the mask policy in our COVID plan. Option 2, remove the mask policy in the terminal building at the airport prior to repeal of the executive order and not receive the funds. Or 3 would be to submit for reimbursement of the funds after the repeal of the executive order, therefore canceling the mask requirement. There is a note that the funds have an expiration date as indicated in the grant agreement. And the dollar amount that we're talking about is, we received about $10,000, and then there's another $22,000 that we're eligible for.
So Kyle, that's a total of 32,000?
Right.
Okay. So we have options. We can keep it as, we can extend this policy out another 30 days to see what happens. Because it would take the president actually reversing the executive order. Is it reversing the right word? Rescinding? Okay. To satisfy that, not having masks out there. So the other option is that we could make this FAA requirement and put it in our personnel policy. And if everyone felt strongly about doing away with the COVID plan. But again, I want to share that the numbers, although they're going down, we still have 2 cases internally. And I'm just last week, okay, just that soon. It was just last week. So I guess I'm asking that we just do this out another 30 days, see what happens. We're going to come back again. I hate to keep bringing this forward, but yes, we're all tired of COVID. That's for sure. But the thing is, we want to take care of our employees. We also don't want to lose our grant funds or have to reimburse now $32,000.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Murphy.
Yeah, it would seem to me like the least evasive thing that we could do is just extend this or grant this resolution another 30 days, take it to the board and possibly have a backup plan if in fact it gets turned down. But I'm not in the camp of returning $32,000. So I would move approval of this resolution to extend it to, as it originally was, the end of June.
Motion by Supervisor Barkey, second by Supervisor Ortiz. Discussion and questions. Supervisor Taylor.
I agree with Bob, but I would suggest that if we're gonna extend this for another 30 days, this is beginning to be the third rail of politics. I think next month when it comes back again, we better have that plan in there to separate the airport from the COVID plan. Because I don't see us ever getting rid of this otherwise.
I would agree with Mr. Taylor on that we need to have the alternate ready to go.
Motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, signify by saying nay. Motion passes. The resolution will be forwarded on county board.
Court three.
Okay.
I need the excuse.
Okay. Hopefully we don't come up with anything that we need your assistance.
Try to hurry it.
If we do, maybe we'll just postpone those and hopefully you're back. If not,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to the resolution to authorize utilization of ARPA funds for Mid-State Technical College. Center.
Mr. Chair, I can begin. So I'm just sharing with everyone that this did pass the ARPA work group unanimously. And I believe we do have a speaker from Mid-States here today to kind of address the need and the appreciation of our support, actually. I turn it over.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Shelley Mondyke, and I'm the president of Mid-State Technical College. And online, we also have a few other Mid-State staff to be available to answer any questions that you may have. But thank you for that unanimous support. And we just wanted to take just a couple minutes, really up to 5, to make sure that you know what a good investment this is. Because this is Mid-State's #1 capital project and how that's really going to affect all of our 8 counties, which Adams County is very important to us, and we just appreciate your consideration. I do have just a quick PowerPoint we're going to put up just to kind of guide the conversation, if that's okay. And Ryan, I believe you are on, and if you want to go ahead and pull that up. If not, I will just speak to it from a verbal standpoint.
If I'm able to have, so I'm trying to share, but it's the host says disabled participant sharing.
So we'll see if that can, but if
You have the ability to share now.
Yep. Okay. 1 sec.
Thank you for trusting us on that. I appreciate it. So just to give you a little bit of background. So I am hoping that you definitely are seeing some increased things coming across at our Adams campus for Mid-State, because we really over the last 5 years have been making a very conscientious effort to really grow that building and grow the business and really to serve your constituents more. And you may recall, gosh, it was known always as an Adams Center. And now we really have done so much work to really have it be an Adams campus. So we really talk about Mid-State is one college with 4 campuses, and are really putting the same resources that we would at any of our other 3 campuses. We're putting them down at Adams, and I know that has been huge. We were just down for your chamber event, and we had received one of the Outstanding Organization Awards, and thank you, because that really was just a testament, I think, to the efforts that we're trying to do at the campus. So I'm just going to keep talking, Ryan, and if it comes up, you can go ahead and catch up. So I became the president in 2017. I can't believe it. But what we had done is a number of community meetings down in your area across the 8 counties. And we heard very loud and clear that we needed to do more. We needed to do more, from doing more training local, and also be able to do more, especially in the fields around healthcare, manufacturing, engineering. We heard about this huge workforce shortage that everybody is trying to battle. We were hearing that we were losing people from our district to other communities. So really, what all leaders do is when you hear these things, I came back to our team, and we're just going to pick it up, number 3 slide if you want, Ryan. And that was really around that they were right. We looked at many of our offerings and we're like, we need to do some things different. On this particular slide, way over on the right-hand side, you're going to see that our 8 counties that we serve, this manufacturing area that people were talking about, was really the number 1 industry in their counties, except for Wood County, which was number 2. And we really know that part of the workforce shortage problem is only going to continue to increase because people are retiring. And so what can we do to make sure that we're positioning our college to be the best that it can be, to keep businesses thriving? I always hear about how they want to grow, but they don't have the workforce. And we knew that we needed to look at how we serve our 8 counties really as a whole. Next slide, Ryan. So what we did is we thought we can do this through pathways, really through using all 4 of our campuses. Again, we've done a lot of work at our Adams campus. We had remodeled for a health learning lab. We went to our own state board to, again, change the designation from center. Since 2017, I just want to give you this to kind of show what a good investment I think that we are. We've had a 67% increase in headcount of people coming into our Adams campus for training. And there's another number that we look at, which is FTE, which is the number of how many people come in for how many credits. We've had a 253% increase. So that just tells me that what we're doing down in your area is working. And I can tell you we have so much more that we want to do. So the bubble that you're seeing Adams campus there is we want to be able to expand, or I should say remodel, the area where we would actually put in a welding lab, we would put in a construction lab, but there's a couple bubbles that have to, or dominoes that have to fall first. And one is the big need that we heard is we needed to do more in manufacturing engineering. You heard me say that. We need to put up a center. Where does that center, where is it going to be? It's going to be in Stevens Point. And that's what this project is about, is the Advanced Manufacturing, Engineering Technology, and Apprenticeship Center. That is the right location to serve all 8 counties. We had received a grant that I'm going to talk about, but what's so exciting, starting actually July 1, we're going to start having a shuttle service now. So Adams County residents can actually be traveled to Wisconsin Rapids right now as we're building this Ameta project. But we're raising dollars to get the Ameta project going on. And then that second piece, or the second domino, will be that expansion that we're going to do at our own Adams campus. And we have a couple of strategies of how to do that. So this is just a rendering of what this potential building is going to be. This is what your investment would be. You will see Portage County has come on board. We're hoping Adams County is coming on board. I can tell you we're having conversations with Wood County. We have 109 different partners that have came on board to really raise over $11 million for this. To have your consideration, to have you endorse this project would be so big in so many ways. Next slide. What's going to be in the building? All the things that I had mentioned: welding, machine tool, mechanical design, apprenticeship programs. Again, we're going to make sure that people can be transported from your area to the center once it is built. But we also know we want to be able to start the pathway for this training locally for you. And that's why we need to remodel the facilities at your own campus to be able to do. But we need that first domino of getting the Ameta Center up to make that second bubble really happen. The next slide, you will see K through 12 partners, your high school down by you, and all 12 high schools that we've had in our district have endorsed this project 100% because they can see the pathway and how critical this is to get people interested in so many industries, but specifically these. Next slide, Ryan. So again, we set off, this has really been a grassroots effort. We had 3 local People come on board with Midstate, have joined forces to say, let's try to get the money to make this happen. Talk about grassroots. That's what Meta is all about. 1.5 million is what the college has to put towards a building project every 2 years. We got unanimous support from our board to be able to do this for all of our 8 counties. We had a land donation. The city of Stevens Point has been wonderful. I think as of today, we have 109 people that have donated anywhere from, really $5 up to $1 million. So we have raised 4.2 million even during COVID times. We did write a workforce innovation grant, which was a $9 million grant. You can see really 4 million for that facility, 1 million for equipment, and then 4 million also to support the 8 county district. And this is where we got transportation dollars through WATIA, which is the Wisconsin Auto and Truck, to start this shuttle service even before the Ameta Center is up, which we're so excited. So now we're just additionally, raising funds to be able to, construction costs are high, which you would probably guess, and for us to be able to get started hopefully this fall. This is the floor plan of what we're going to do. It's just under 48,000 square foot. Going to be in the Stevens Point Industrial Park. It'll have Highway 39 visibility. You're seeing different names, maybe logos on this. Those 109 people that have given, if they've given over 100,000, they have some permanent naming in the building. Again, it's just been so supported in so many ways. Next slide, Ryan. Timelines. I'm so glad that there's more checkoffs than there are bullets. So at this point, we are hoping in July, we'll be going for final board approval to put up that building in Stevens Point. We would begin this fall, and our hope would be that classes will start in that Ameta Center in the 23-24 school year. Now, what's even more exciting, you know what we want to do in Adams. So if we can get this first domino to fall, which is what your investment is going to help us do, we are also a finalist for some federal dollars. There was the Build Back Better grant that you maybe have heard about. Over 500 people applied throughout the country. They took it down to 60. We are one of the 60, and actually just had a visit from the Assistant Secretary of EDA here a few weeks ago to substantiate our project, which is really exciting. But that would allow us, at the very bottom of this slide, it would allow us to do that remodel in Adams right away, which is something even better than what we anticipated. Next slide. So what would happen is that building in Stevens Point, if we did get this federal funding, it would take it from a just under 48,000 square foot building to 64,000. So we're going to be able to add a training center over on the left. We're going to add some additional classrooms on the left, an additional lab over to the right. But what is so great is if you go to the next slide, this is what we're going to do. So if you are looking at our Adams campus over on the left, we're going to remodel that building, and you're going to see that welding lab, the construction lab. We want to be able to have people not only have the shuttle to be able to get where they need to go at any of our campuses, and it will not just be in manufacturing. If somebody needs to go to our Marshfield campus because they're interested in Surge Tech, the Adams campus students will now be able to do this. So to have the shuttle service running to all 4 of our campuses, it's such a wonderful thing. So that was really a lot of information. But it's an exciting time to be at Midstate. It's an exciting time for the Adams County, what we're trying to do down there. I really would love your support. I'd love to be able to put Adams County on as really my 110th sponsor. So any questions?
Supervisor Rick Beast.
I'd like to make a comment. First of all, I want to thank Midstate. They currently enroll every one of our high school graduates into the Midstate program if they so desire. And
Yes.
I think that's been a big help to our community. I also spoke at the last budget meeting about how we need to retain 20 to 40-year-olds in our communities to keep our community strong and active and growing. And this project here absolutely fits that bill. It'll give people a source to maybe stay and work in and around Adams County. And I think that's important for all of us here. So I'm in full support of this. So thank you, Midstate.
Thank you. Well, we really believe that if we can do more, get this shuttle service going, that will only help, bring industry more into your county. And like you said, keep them there for you. Keep them there, because if they can get that local training, they don't have to relocate. They don't have to move. I appreciate your comments.
Supervisor Scott.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I'm actually a alumni from Mid-State, so two-year associate degree, and some of the problems are, when I was going there, and I appreciate the shuttle, is a lot of the basic classes I think I could have took, back then, probably not, but now, could they take those classes in Adams and then for a year and then do their progressive stuff up at this facility?
Yes, what we've done is really worked with Lori Inda, who's our Adams campus dean, who I know is on, and really our full academic team. And we've looked at your demographics of your county. And the plan is to have 10 different programs that actually would be offered entirely down there through either a mix of in-person, online, hybrid, and then having this pathway to all of our other programs as well. But when we had the distinction of being a center, from a financial aid standpoint, we could not have the ability to offer any full program down there. So students would always be forced to drive at some point. So getting that recognition as a full-blown campus was big for us. And I'm sure many of you knew Robert Beaver, who has been such a supporter of Mid-State in your area. And he was right there along the way, helping me be able to make that happen. But yes, I mean, by 2024, we'll have 10 complete programs that will be able to be offered solely, where people won't even have to travel at all. But then with the shuttle service, they will be able to travel. But especially for construction or welding, they'll be able to get that right there, Ryan. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, but we want to make sure that even if they're in nursing, that they can get started at your Adams campus, which I know they currently are. Lori can speak to that. But then if they have to go for their second year, maybe to the Wisconsin Rapids campus, because that's where our simulation center is, we don't want transportation to be a barrier. And we know from a cost standpoint, it truly is. So that's a big thing for your community.
Yeah, Scott, so to your point, so to really get students pipelined into programming so they can start down there, so I represent the academic side of the house, it's all the trade industrial programming. And so the reason we're focusing in on a construction lab and welding lab is so we can get a student started down at Adams, get them, maybe it's a short-term certificate program that builds into our welding program or builds into our fabrication program. And then they would transition up to the Stevens Point facility to complete program and or our Wisconsin Rapids facility. But so we get their foot in the door, get them started, get the students started, and then we can transition.
Thank you.
We also have been utilizing the lab at the high school. So please know that has also, I think the relationship that we have with the high school is stronger than it has been in a long time.
I would add that currently we are doing the construction trades academy with the high school, as Shelley mentioned. So the construction trades lab, they'll be able to complete that full technical diploma in Adams. Right now we are partnering with the high school to get students through that. So right now on Wednesday nights, we have 10 students coming in for blueprint reading. They do 3 of the courses from that diploma via dual credit right at the high school. And then the other 2, we're going to partner with the high school until we can get that lab in place and then supply that right on campus for those students.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you for your consideration.
Motion by Supervisor Pease to approve and send it out to the board.
I'll second.
Second by Scott Pease. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay. On to 24 then, so. Next, we have the resolution to authorize utilization of ARPA funding for a security system at solid waste. Charlie, can I cover this? Or?
Sure. You guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, we're looking to get a security camera installed out at solid waste. It would cover our office, the shop, outside area. It would cover down by the gate, the entire MRF would also be covered in this. The fuel system would be covered, as well as the scale with the license plate camera as well. We've had some incidents in the past where people come on, they drive off without paying. It happens pretty regularly that we come to work in the morning and there's garbage laying out at the gate where people just throw it and pile it. So yeah, we're looking for funds to get the full kind of system installed in our department.
Chair, I'll just add that this did go to the ARPA work group where it was unanimously supported.
Make a motion to approve. Supervisor Graham? Second by Supervisor Scott Pease. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. Okay. Resolution will move on to county board. Next is resolution authorize utilization of ARPA funds for a single point of entry base scanner.
Yeah, this was the one that we had kind of touched on earlier. We were able to cover part of it through a different grant, and then there's a chunk of it that was not able to be covered through that grant because the dollars were spent. And because there is a physical barrier, they're still working on putting that up. There's going to be a physical barrier between the deputies and the individuals coming in that we felt that may fit under ARPA for mitigating exposure to airborne viruses.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So once we return Marquette counties, we have no scanner, is that correct?
No, the new one's down there.
So why are we buying another one?
Just paying for the one that's down there, Kyle?
Yeah.
This will be paying for the one we have.
Then I move approve.
Motion approved by Supervisor Zaborski. Second by Supervisor Baylor. Discussion or questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. How did we get it if we didn't have it the first time? How did we get ordered? Now we are doing the funds now. I guess that's my question.
Yep, so we have it paid for. It was part of the building fund in the soft costs. I think there was about $50,000 budgeted for security screening equipment. We were able to get the body screener, the walkthrough one. We were able to get that covered through that grant, and then we were also able to get part of this piece of equipment covered through that grant, but not the entire cost of it. So we're just looking for other ways to cover this piece of equipment because it does help with mitigating exposure to COVID. So yeah, it was already paid for.
Al, do you maybe want to address why we were motivated to move this out of the capital project? I believe it's over budget, maybe touch on that.
Yeah, because the building project is currently over budget. It's looking like it's going to be over by, I think, about 100,000 roughly is where we were at. So we were just looking to try to cover it under different funding if it's available, which is what we've done with those other grants already.
Supervisor Scott Pease.
I'm going to encourage a no vote on this, and the reason why is during our building meeting discussions, we had a contingency fund that we used. I'm going to guess about 200,000 extra. Maybe I'm wrong on that for upgrades to the older part of the building here for to run AC lines, so it was all up to date on the system that we put in. That wasn't part of the plan, but we agreed to it because it was cost savings. Now, that's why we're over that. It ain't a lot of money, 100,000 is quite a bit, but, if we wouldn't have did that, we would have been on our budget. And this shouldn't come out of the general fund or wherever it's coming out of. It's already paid for. I don't agree with it.
Kyle. So part of this is money that's already been, we've already paid for this, and now this is how we are refinancing it, so to speak.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, it's paid for. It's just replenishing the dollars that paid for it. So all the ARPA money is sitting in its own separate fund. So.
So we are taking the money that was appropriated through the county and replacing it with Fed money through ARPA. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Either discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay.
Hey,
Motion failed, so resolution will not go on to come forward. So, John, what was the 1 to 4? Okay. Next we have resolution for hire part-time code enforcement officer.
Val, did you want to start on that, and then we can have Dusty comment if needed?
Yeah, so this is for part-time code enforcement officer. The contract that we entered into with Quincy would essentially pay for this position.
Supervisor, please.
So if the town of Quincy is paying for this part-time code officer, A, is they only gonna be working in Quincy? And B, what happens when Quincy, after a year or so, decides they don't need a part-time code officer because they can't afford it anymore? What's the plan?
Sure. Yes, go ahead, Dusty. Thank you. I think you can grab any mic if you want.
Yeah.
So the primary focus, or one of the two primary focuses for the proposed position is to handle the town of Quincy zoning matters, and then also shoreline zoning, become a shoreline zoning specialist. The dollar amount is a fee that the town of Quincy is paying in our office to be their zoning administrator. To do that more efficiently and be able to provide some additional services. That's where the position came from. My idea though is, if the town of Quincy does back out of it, or not back out, the contract is canceled by either party. The position would go away unless we can secure other funding somehow. My anticipation is to make sure that the applicants know that it is a contingent position, I guess is the best way to put that.
That agreement with Quincy, how many years? Is it just annual?
30-day notification to cancel.
And what's the term?
they could cancel it tomorrow for 30. I mean, it's ongoing. Every year we do look at it, but at any time, a party either the county or the town could cancel that contract with 30-day notice.
So why is this under the ARPA funds?
Well, I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
That's why I thought that it was.
No, it wasn't under the ARPA funds.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a couple things. One thing that I get hit on all the time is about, we make ordinances that we don't enforce. The latest one was the 1,000-gallon for campers, or what, 300 gallons, whatever it is. All right. Who enforces that? I guess I look at this as, if we really want to start enforcing our ordinances, I would encourage us maybe to look at a full-time code enforcement officer and hire it as a countywide person and do it that way. If I was living in Quincy, knowing that not only was they're gonna enforce ordinances in Quincy, but look at other shorelines, they're paying for something they're not getting any benefit for, personally. And I would rather see us actually hire a code enforcement person if we're gonna continue to do ordinances that matter, and have somebody on staff to do that.
Mr. Chair. So I guess it'd be better if I explain the situation with the town of Quincy. So our office does administer 12 different ordinances. The town of Quincy has not adopted county zoning. Shoreline zoning is in effect there, and that's because that's a state requirement. However, the town of Quincy actually has their own zoning ordinance that they wrote. Company they used to contract with a company to be their zoning administrator, but it's not a county ordinance. They weren't happy with the way that that enforcement was taking place with this other company. So they went and looked for somebody else to be their zoning administrator. And that's how we ended up being the town of Quincy zoning administrator, but we're actually enforcing the town of Quincy's ordinances. And enforcement goes through them, not through our corp council for those types of town matters. They have their own board of review. The dollar amount, our entire office is their zoning administrator. The idea on the funds that we would receive from them, that's the same funds that they were paying another company outside to be the zoning administrator. So here would be more local in-house. A lot of people have to come to our office anyway for various things. The funds were there to get somebody a little more dedicated to knowing those town ordinances better than every person in our staff. We do have 2 other code enforcement officers, including myself. And this person would focus in those areas, but they are a county-wide position. It's not necessarily a one-to-one. The town of Quincy dollar amount is paying for them, but it does help it be levy neutral. But they would be enforcing shoreline county-wide. Those are the 2 ordinances I was going to have them focus on.
How come there wasn't a dollar amount attached to this? I mean, what is Quincy gonna pay you to hire a part-time zoning officer?
Well, that's what I guess I was saying. The town of Quincy is not expecting us to hire anybody. This person isn't the Quincy zoning administrator. Our office is. This is a choice of mine to add to our staff because we are expanding the services that we're providing. The 38,000 is what the town of Quincy pays us to be their zoning administrator, whether we hire somebody or not. And we actually started being their zoning administrator on April 1st. And we've been doing it about a month and a half now.
So you're just gonna evaluate it. I mean, if the town of Quincy would ever pull out of their contract with us, then, I mean, if you have code enforcement that you're seeing revenues, then you would make the decision at that time, so. We just need to watch your budget then.
Absolutely, like, I mean, we do anyway, but yes, that was the idea.
Right.
If the workload decreases because we don't have the town of Quincy, that would be another component to whether that half-time or that part-time position would be justified.
Supervisor County.
Do all the other townships that we're zoning have this, pay the same amount of money to you?
The town of Quincy is the only town that that pays our office anything. When a town adopts county zoning, it now becomes permit fee-based revenue, and then anything on the levy. However, all the fees that we issue or when we issue a permit, we get $100 for a fee. Our office retains that, and that's what pays for a good chunk of the enforcement. With the town of Quincy, because it's the town's ordinance, the town zoning, any fees generated go right to the town to help offset that 38,000 that they're contracting with us. So we're doing it as a flat rate, not a percentage. Before, there was time and mileage that this other company was charging, and it just wasn't working well for them. But for example, the town of Preston is under county zoning. We don't receive a dime from them once they adopted county zoning. If the town of Quincy ever chose to adopt county zoning, the 38,000 contract amount would go away.
You ready, Rick, please?
Now that you've explained it, I understand it now, where that money is gonna be spent. And it has no budget impact. I can see supporting this, but until you explained it to me, I didn't understand how the code enforcement was gonna work. Because the way it's written here, it's a little bit different than the explanation.
I probably wrote the resolution very poorly.
You have a question to Red
I think it should be written in there because a year from now is elections for the towns. There might be an administration change out there. And they go away from being county. I think it should be written in the resolution that there's a sunset clause. That if we lose the town of Quincy, that this person should be eliminated, or at that time seriously looked at as to whether we need them on regular county planning and zoning.
Are you adding it as a motion to add it to the resolution?
Yes, I would make a motion to add that to the resolution, to put a sunset clause on it.
Make it, and then it won't, yeah. And we've had that before, I think. In some of the resolutions where the funding mechanism went away, then it would be motion to add that to resolution.
I'll second that.
Rick, please, any discussion, any questions on that motion to add that?
Mr. Chairman, couldn't this whole resolution be rewritten properly? It's not like we have a time issue here. They're already doing it. So I would suggest that this thing goes back and get done properly in its entirety.
I'll withdraw my motion if he does, and then you guys will. We can
Yes,
motion with him.
I'll withdraw my motion and go on with Mr.
I
McGrath.
don't know, yeah, okay. So, I mean, question is, timing on this, I mean, you probably want to get started on it sooner than later.
He's already doing it, so.
We are already doing it, stretched on the thin side, and my main concern is that we are getting into our building season, our busiest time.
That would be the motion then.
You're gonna make that motion.
Yeah. I'd move the table.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Yeah. That's okay. Motion table and second, I mean, if you can work on it a little quicker, I mean. If you get something done, we can probably still get on the agenda knowing that if you rewrite it, we could schedule a brief meeting right before the county board meeting if you'd like. If you think you get it done in next.
Just to verify, it won't have to go, would it need to go back to planning and zoning?
I wouldn't think so.
Yes, if it's removed.
If I'm
No.
amending the existing,
Yeah, are you gonna have another planning and zoning meeting before then? Before county board?
no. Plus I do the same thing that you were just saying about right before county board.
Right, you'd probably do that. You get a joint meeting even if you wanted to, so. 10-15 minute meeting, it should be fairly straightforward.
We can do that.
Yeah, maybe contact the chair and see. So, okay. The motion to table and bring back at the next meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, signify by saying nay. Okay, motion passes. So, yeah, I contact the chair and see if you guys can do something with that. So. Okay, thank you. Yeah, better to have it than making motions on the floor, right? So it hopefully help that and people would understand a little better. So thank you. Next is resolution authorizing entry into an intergovernmental cooperative agreement related to Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative and participation in investment programs of the fund. Kyle, you're covering this or?
Yep, so this is related to the investment advisory services. We've met with PMA and in order to them to handle our funds and investing our funds, we have to have this resolution passed and adopted. It's to enter into the Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative. And on the second page, it's got the name, position, and signature there. That would be for authorized officials to make any changes or withdraw or add funds into that fund. And the two individuals that we're going to put down, we're going to be Janie and Liana on there. I don't know, Jeff, if you were still on, if you had anything you wanted to add on this resolution?
He's not.
No.
He had to go to court.
Oh, okay.
So he had one that, the one that you have in the board book is the resolution that they sent you. He rewrote it and put it in our format.
Okay. Yeah, because this was just their template resolution that we had initially attached.
Yeah, because there was no fiscal note in there, right?
Right.
Right, and we normally require a fiscal note, so there would probably be none. Right, there's not a fee for the contract?
They do charge a fee, but I mean, it's based on go back and look at that, but it's not anything that we directly pay to them. It's kind of built into the investments that they manage.
Sure.
So are we currently involved in this program? Assume that this has to do with money set aside for the county as well as the employee. Is that correct?
This is county dollars, isn't it, Kyle?
Right, yeah, this is county dollars. So it'll be like the monthly cash report. So on Jannie's monthly cash report, you'll see on there, like we'll have the LGIP accounts, Bank of Wisconsin Dells, like she's got money sitting there, earning really low interest rates right now, just because of how the market is. So this would be, we're gonna have our funds with PMA and they're gonna invest them in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes for municipalities, and possibly get better returns than what we're seeing right now at the local banks on their CDs and money markets.
So, all right. This isn't retirement dollars?
No.
Okay, so anytime you go into a program and such as this, there's a risk involved. And the more return, the more risk typically. So I think we better consider this in its entirety.
Supervisor Scott?
It would have been nice to see like a 3, 5, 10-year average of how this fund does or what they invest in or whatnot.
And the end of that is, is there a limitation based on what your budget is compared to what you can invest? So if we took a big loss at some point, are we still gonna be able to pay our bills? I mean, if somebody got real aggressive and put as much as they could in there and we lost it all, what would the county do then? So what is the risk?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So it's not uncommon for municipalities to have an investment agency. Baraboo has it. Every place I've ever been, we've had investment agencies take our funds. They follow our investment policy. So we say in there how conservative or aggressive we want to be with our portfolio. They are very well aware of the cash position that we need to have in order to pay debt, which, by the way, we don't pay our debt. We use sales tax. And so when sales tax comes in, that will be properly invested into these short-term, long-term, however they decide. They're the experts to know when things need to be liquid so that we can pay our current obligations. They do take their fees out of income that we make. So their incentive is to make us income. It's a net income. So net meaning they take their fees out of it. But we tend to have a positive return more so than just putting it into a savings account or CDs. CDs used to be attractive, but it's across the board. There's just no interest rates that are attractive out there. We have to look at investment options. So the risk involved is basically interest rate risk. So we just don't know what the limit is for certain investments. If the longer we go out, the higher the interest rate. So all of that is addressed in an investment policy. So again, we decide how aggressive or conservative we want to be with our portfolio.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, so Cynthia, when you say that, the principal would still have risk, not just interest. Is that correct? I would assume so.
Oh, okay, so typical municipality does not want to be aggressive with the investment, which means aggressive means risk. We don't want risk. We want something that's sure. And there are, things like commercial paper would be risky. We would tell them, no commercial paper. It has to be US obligated, blah, blah, blah. And all that stuff is pretty much, it's very secure. So no, we don't want to put the county at risk of losing any of the principal or corpus or that we don't want to lose any of the principal. So our investment policy will reflect that.
And then you said their fee would come out of the earnings. Is that by percentage or what would their fee be?
It's all over the place. So we're looking at a portfolio of investments. If you have dealt with investments in the past, you would have noticed if you go into CDs, there's probably less of a fee for that because there's no risk on their side. If you want to go into commercial paper, there's going to be probably a risk on both sides, the investment company and you. There's fees attached to stuff. So again, all of that can be addressed in an investment policy, which we will definitely have in place before anything is committed to PMA or other investments.
Yep, the fees are 15 basis points or 0.15%. So it's based on so if we're getting like, I don't know, 0.3% of a return, then they would take 0.15%. Basically, we would see the net of the return.
We can also have investments where we pay a premium. So we would pay upfront to get a great rate in the end. And so if you look at it 5 years out, you could say, well, it took us this much money to get this instrument now, but in 5 years, we'll be realizing a 2%. So you may have to invest some upfront. There's a lot of work to be done with investments. That's why we'd like to hire professionals to do it instead of just relying on CDs. If you saw the quarterly financials, we're in the hurt locker as far as earning money that we anticipated to earn.
You look at the stock market the last couple of days.
Yeah, I believe a lot of their investments they're going to be around municipal bonds. Was that your understanding, Cynthia?
Yeah, the municipal bonds are pretty secure. They'd be like us going out to get debt. We're going to pay our bills. Municipalities usually pay their bills. So that would be a low risk investment for us. And that will certainly be addressed in the investment policy.
So you talked about this investment policy, did that come back before this committee, or you just enter into it yourself?
In our fiscal policy, we do have an investment policy. I believe it's like 2 pages, which PMA did review, and I think they are planning to help us rewrite it. And that investment or that fiscal policy would come back to admin finance and then the county board.
I think there's some consternation in the committee. I think it would be better if we bring this back at next meeting also and have some information based on the returns on some of them would be nice. I've heard that and maybe also have the investment policy available too, so. Everybody understands.
That whole keep it simple would be good.
Yeah. Okay. We'll put this one on the next month's agenda, or, okay? I don't think we do. I think the chair normally can, the chair can normally designate it. So. Next, we'll move to the resolution to authorize utilization of ARPA funding on the bookmobile. We've got a bunch of people signed up for this. I don't know, Cynthia, if you want to go through your information first, or?
Sure. So in the packet that you have as part of this meeting is a repeat. So you're going to see stuff that was presented last time. The difference is that I wasn't here to really speak to it, and there's just things that I pick up in other meetings, you know, talking to people one-on-one that I would like to share as it relates to the bookmobile. I was going to do a presentation, but then I thought, I think I'll do a formal presentation if it's needed for the full board. But for this level, I think I'm just gonna, I have some talking points. One is that this bookmobile is estimated to be $185,000. We're asking for ARPA funds. It did go through the ARPA work group where it was unanimously supported to move forward. There is a bequest that came across or came to my attention that's coming to the library. This bequest is quite sizable. The problem is we're not really sure just what portion of it is going to the library. So it's still in the preliminary stages, but there is, can I say the amount of the?
Yeah, it was an estimate.
So it's like 500,000? Okay, 500,000 is coming up. That doesn't mean the whole thing is going to the library. We just don't know what portion of the library is. The reason I bring that up is that I was talking to Aaron about potentially having the library pay back the ARPA fund. So we would get the vehicle now because, as you know, getting stuff ordered and getting it in time to be able to utilize it is a challenge. So there is a potential to have the ARPA refunded. The drive here mostly is that this is to have the bookmobile, there's a requirement to have a half-time position. This will fall on the county to support the library. I do want to have Kyle address, so we're looking at $20,000 for this half-time position. And Kyle, do you want to address maybe where the funding source is coming from, what our plan is to kind of reallocate funds that were budgeted in a certain way and somehow kind of earmark that towards the library? And then I'll kind of interject if I need to.
Yep, so, okay. And this is part of the 2023 budget we're kind of talking about, because we wouldn't have the bookmobile, if this goes through, the bookmobile wouldn't be here until end of the year, I believe, early next year. So as part of the 2023 budget, we're looking at eliminating the levy that we have for debt service. We have $168,130 in levy going to debt service. And then we have $480,424 in levy going to the library. Both of those have exemptions built within them through state statutes and the levy limit worksheet and requirements. So we kind of looked at those two items separately. So if we were to eliminate the debt service levy, because we don't need the levy in the debt service fund, because we have the sales tax to cover our debt payments. So we're planning on eliminating that debt service levy, which would help further reduce the mill rate. But if we did hold off on eliminating like we'd eliminate it all from the debt service, but if we shifted $20,000 over to the library fund, that would still see a net decrease in the mill rate of about 5 cents per $1,000 of valuation. So the debt service levy is roughly 6 cents of, the mill rate is 6 cents per $1,000 of valuation. And then the library levy is about 17 cents per $1,000 of valuation. So if we were to eliminate debt service levy and then increase the library levy by the need for the position, that would still yield a net decrease in the mill rate. So a $100,000 home would see a decrease of about $50. A $250,000 home, which is the countywide average for home value, it would see a decrease of about $128.
So I hope everyone followed that. I'm gonna try to make it, I'm gonna try to repeat. So we had $168,000 for the past 4 years going into debt service. Okay, it impacted the levy. So when Kyle and I were reviewing stuff, we're like, what is this 168,000? And so we kind of earmarked it to kind of come off the levy. Meanwhile, the need for a bookmobile presented itself and the need for a part-time position. And I thought, okay, so instead of taking it all off the 168, we're going to reallocate 20 of it back to the library. As you know, the library can levy, it levies separate than the county. You have the county piece and then you have the library portion. We're just taking it from debt service on the county side and moving it over to the library. So that's where the source of funds is coming from for the library or the halftime position. The other thing that was expressed to me was any maintenance to the vehicle was going to be assumed by the library. There's no additional fees coming from the county on that. I do want to, there's a number of support, right? We want community to be supportive of this. And I'm just going to mention some. I have letters and or emails or have talked to people. So the Lions Club is on board. The Senator Joan Balwick is on board. The Library Trustee Bookmobile Committee, Town of Quincy, Town of Adams, Village of Friendship, Town of New Chester, Town of Monroe, Town of Jackson. And one thing that I want to mention too is that mobile vans are on the move, and pun intended for sure. And so you'll see that in your blood drives. You'll see that with mammograms, dialysis, MRIs, dentists, and ice cream, right? Ice cream. I mean, that's definitely a a favorable one. So why not a library? It just, it kind of extends the service out. Yes, people can drive to get the MRI, people can drive for the blood, but if it comes to you, it's just convenient, it's a community thing. And there, you know, the van is small, yes, but the impact is potentially big for our community. And I do have a number of things for the support, as I mentioned. You know, Erin has a preliminary schedule for the bookmobile. So this thing is dynamic, which means if it's not working, she's going to change it. She's gonna follow the need and people are gonna reach out. There was I guess a comment from the last meeting about, you know, the schools having a library. And what was said to me, or I guess a comment from a citizen, is that it's not there. They're actually utilizing that library space at the school for some other purpose now. So we're seeing less and less of a move for library and, you know, and having resources. So the bookmobile does fit that need. It's also an event. That's what I talked about the ice cream machine, right? Or the ice cream van that makes the bells and you get kind of excited. Well, the same happens for a community when they see this. It's gonna be pretty flashy. I mean, they're gonna know where this bookmobile is. There's gonna be an app to let someone know when is that thing going to be at some location. I mean, there's always some delays or whatever. You know, you have ADA people trying to close out their business. I mean, you might be delayed somewhat. So there's gonna be an app to let people know when it's gonna be and where it's gonna be at a certain point of time. It's much like the Uber. You know, when you do Uber, you can tell where your vehicle is and you can actually watch the route. Trying to think. Erin, am I missing something? I know we talked a lot the other day.
So much information.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what would be of interest to the committee that we can speak to.
Yeah, and I guess if you're gonna speak, you should turn on a mic there, so
Absolutely.
otherwise people on the phone or electronically can't hear me. Thank you.
I do want the committee to know that we are not upset or unhappy with our current library building. We've been there for a while. We have great patrons. I have staff who've been there. We accumulate over 70 years of experience, which is why we're able to help so many people do so many different things. But the staff are aware that there are people we are not able to reach, and we don't always know why. We have suspicions. Part of it is people are new. They don't know. They don't have good access to transportation. And what we'd like to do with the bookmobile is to give as much access as we can in the cheapest way we can for the county. We've got 600 square miles. We're working with the Leicester Public Library of Rome. They're very excited about doing this. We would cooperate on the staffing, which is why we only need a half a person to cover what we imagine to be 20 hours a week on the road with 2 people on the road together at all times. We have the ability to add volunteers. Several of the groups are very excited about being able to accompany us. But this is simply a way for us to help Adams grow. The thing is, you don't know right now where there are going to be new housing developments or where there's going to be new places for people to learn or shop. This gives us the maximum ability to do that. Plus, seasonally, you have so much going on in Adams County in the summer. We would obviously be doing more hours in the summer. We were planning to park the bookmobile at the fairgrounds for the week of the fair. We'd be trying to do some regular routes, but we'd also be visiting places that have access to come. The bookmobile that was out in front is the Dells, the library in the Dells. They've run that same van since 2008. It's more or less the same van we'd be getting now. They've only got 36,000 miles on it, but they've been busy for quite a few years. The vehicle works really well. Staff enjoy working on it, and they build community for the library through their area. sometimes they're at schools. The pandemic made that hard, so they've switched to other places. But we couldn't do that with a building. We couldn't do that by, setting something down in another part of the county. This gives us the flexibility to do that. So,
Mr. Chair. So I'd like to add, I think there was something mentioned regarding faith in action, doing something similar. I think it's very limited. I don't think it's like what someone might think it does. If you want to maybe talk about faith in action quick.
I don't know a lot about Faith in Action. I can tell you they have no deal to pick up books from us. One of the things that the state of Wisconsin ensures we do is to keep patron privacy. So if you're checking out books on whatever the heck, Raising Weasels, you don't have to let your neighbors know. And so if somebody wanted Faith in Action to pick them up, they could contract, they have to tell us. And we are unaware that this is being done regularly. Now, anybody can ask to have their son, their daughter, their neighbor on their account so that, when Joe Smith goes to the downtown, he can pick up my books for me. But it requires us to know. We are unaware that Faith in Action is doing any regular library work. It might be doing other work. But I was not able to figure out what that might be. So I'm not sure where that claim has come from. It might be a few years back too.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, I can say that at one point, Faith in Action did, and I think it might have been before this one, to have an arrangement where Faith in Action people picked up books and took them and brought them back for their recipients of this new volunteer book. So I think it speaks to the fact that there's a demand that really was very valuable to some people. But I think Faith in Action cannot at all fulfill a booking deal that comes to a community loaded with movies and music and craft projects and books of all kinds. So yes, there is a demand, but Faith in Action has never really met that demand, only in a very small.
Mr. Chair. So one thing last thing I'll comment before I guess we turn it over for everyone. I think we have a number of speakers, but sorry. The last thing is, we were gonna talk to Doug and Darren regarding the campers. I mean, our campsites are full and potentially having the bookmobile go out there. I know that they have a very, very small area where they have books for, the kids and stuff, but we were wanting to kind of weigh in or have them weigh in, but we haven't talked to them yet, but it was just, we were kind of brainstorming ideas, but Ms. Chair, I kind of yield to you.
Yeah, and if there's nothing else that Aaron or county manager want to add right now, we have public participants unless there's questions of the committee. So, Mary Nelson. Yeah, please use the microphone, so. Okay, thank you.
My name is Mary Nelson. I am the president of the Adams County Library Board of Trustees.
Is it green?
Yes.
Oh, you probably gotta get a little closer.
Okay. We in no way intend to supplant any service that's already being offered. We intend to supplement those. And by bringing the library within maybe 5 to 10 minutes of a drive, rather than a 20 to 30 or more minute drive, people who are not homebound, but who are reluctant to drive farther than just a simple back and forth on roads they know would be able to access the library again. We have many patrons in Adams County who like to browse the stacks. They could do that if the library were coming to them. That's what the library bookmobile would do. We can also service those who order from home online, deliver books that would come through that service. We can give kids a summertime avenue to books and learning that they don't get from schools when they're away. Oh, I'm sorry. Green is green, bright green now. So while we don't supplement or supplant, we supplement. We're not taking away from bookstores. We're not taking away from ordering from Amazon. All those things happen. Ebooks happen. The library can assist doing that, but this is a long stretch of county. People are scattered throughout. We can make the trip with the bookmobile and put people back in touch with the things that they had before. And the county has an aging population that this would benefit. We can also provide Wi-Fi hotspots for people whose own Wi-Fi is unreliable or if they don't have it at all. We can provide a regular stop when people can come and once again be able to connect. But one of the things that I keep learning about libraries in my job here in Adams and as the representative for our system is that libraries have become in many ways the gathering place that other locations served in previous times. So we get people who can come in and have face-to-face human contact, and they can do it on a bookmobile that they couldn't get otherwise. And those meetings of human beings are one of the treasures that through the centuries, libraries have been called on to archive and preserve. In this small way, our library would be preserving the face-to-face contact that human beings need that falls away in an online social setting. So the treasure that we can still take coming to the library or going out with the bookmobile and carrying information about community events, community governing opportunities. All of those things can be taken out to people who generally don't have access to them. And we do it with a bookmobile staffed by human beings on a regular basis. That's why I appreciate this opportunity to reiterate what we feel are the benefits of a bookmobile, a traveling collection that carries with it a storyteller in the summer, and the need for a bookmobile that this particular county has. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Sandy Piper. Just want to remind you that we'll be limited to 3 minutes.
No problem.
And I didn't start the timer right away, so I mean, Mary, you were fine, so. Thank you.
Okay, Sandra Pfeiffer here. I have very little to add, except I'm here today as a representative of Adams Community Theater. I have been for the past 8 years and currently am the president of that board. We have a large volunteer organization. We staff the theater on Main Street in Adams for a free movie every Thursday. And this is thanks to the library. Without our partnership with the library, the theater would not exist. We also do live performances, but we can't sustain financially on that. And we sustain ourselves financially through memberships and through our concession stand where we offer affordable candy treats and popcorn and soda at very reasonable prices, the most expensive item being a bag of popcorn for $5. Everything else is either $2 or $1. And again, we offer the face-to-face opportunities too for people. And this partnership with the library has been very rich. And there are, our membership behind me for Adams Community Theater is quite large. We all have very big mouths. We all consider books to be very, very important. We offer food for our bodies. We offer food for our minds, and that's the bookmobile. So please support it. We'll remember if you don't. Thank you.
Next, Donna Medro.
Money?
Hello? Okay, my name is Donna Medro. I live in the town of Quincy. I came in here in 1985 as a seasonal person and retired in 2001. and decided to retire up here because I felt this community offered a number of amenities and it had leaders that listened to its residents when the need arose. And I have participated in a number of outreach programs in the community, including Habitat for Humanity, Partners of Thunders in Memorial, Mount View, and the Friends of the Library. So today, I want to tell you what the value I believe the bookmobile will bring to our residents. I believe that we have an extremely well-run library with many wonderful programs, such as book clubs, children and adult, arts and crafts, electronic and digital resources, and assistance, summer reading programs, reference and research material, and assistance, author and speaker events, and family events, etc. But one of the main goals of library outreach is focusing on traditionally underserved populations. And a large portion of this population lives in our rural districts, where many people face financial, transportation, technological, and communication barriers. Our library with bookmobile could provide the bridge to allow these services to become more accessible to a large portion of our communities. We must acknowledge we have many residents that cannot afford to buy a book or need to prioritize their gas usage, or because of age, disability, or family or work circumstances cannot get into town to utilize the library services. With the bookmobile, our library could partner with other community organizations and businesses to promote each other's services. A bookmobile could be present at community events like it was said, such as Kids Day, Picnic at White Creek, or the Corn and Tater Festival. They also could, the services of issuing library cards and providing the internet hotspots, use of the computers and printers and copiers and children activities, books, movies, and other enrichment resources structured to fit that particular community would be only make all of our communities stronger. It is the truest form of library outreach, as the role would be to bring the library to the people. It's like having the branch in each of the townships without the cost of the building. In fact, I just found out this week that a library in Massachusetts was given more than $300,000 of ARPA money for a bookmobile.
How many times now? Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Next we have Teresa David, and she's on Zoom. Teresa David. We'll come back. Maybe she's having problems unmuting, so. Otherwise, Barbara Wong, please.
First of all, I would like to appreciate us to be here. Thank you, Cynthia, for all your support and what you're doing for helping us. I really don't have a whole lot to say. Everybody said everything. I started working at the library as part-time many years ago, moved the building, ended up working here, blah, blah. Okay, so I love the library. I always have. I hated the worst decision of my life was leaving the library to work full-time because I needed insurance for my family. So I am in full support of the bookmobile, Can you imagine that this bookmobile would travel from Highway 73 all the way down to Highway 23? We're just into the Dells, reaching from the Wisconsin River all the way over, 3 miles west of Coloma. We have a lot of territory to cover. There's a lot of people out there that I think would really benefit from this. Like I said, everybody else has said something. Just think about that territory that needs to be covered. We prefer like town halls. Okay, you have a Quincy Town Hall that's way down off of Z, way down south. But we could also go to the library department, which is more up north into the Strong, closer to Stone's Ferry. So anyway, let these others talk. Thank you for your help and thank you for listening to all of us.
Thank you. Bill Bigler?
Thank you. I'm speaking in my capacity as Town of Jackson supervisor. I just wanted to give, some of you probably already know this story, but when the 2022 county budget was adopted, the funding for the Oxford Public Library, which was around $5,000, was removed. And one of the side effects of that was the Oxford Public Library decided to charge Town of Jackson residents $60 a year for using the library. And we have about 150 users of the Oxford Library, I think is the running count. And as an interim solution, the Town of Jackson board voted to allocate $2,500 to the Oxford Public Library, which then allowed for the fees on the library cards to go away for at least this year. But we don't know what's going to happen in 2023 and beyond. And so I think the Town of Jackson is definitely interested in seeing, what the possibilities of a bookmobile would be for our residents, as a supplement, complement, or as an alternative to the Oxford Library, depending on how things go financially for both the library and for the Town of Jackson. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And then Robert.
Time. Hi, my name is Bob Time. I am a member of the Adams County Library Board. I also retired from the Federal Correctional Institution and for a while was involved in the manning of that library there. So I'm familiar with how the use of library materials can be very important in keeping people occupied and reducing the amount of, shall we say, trouble time that they can get into. Before I get into a whole lot, I want to thank the board because I know you guys it's a tough job being a good steward of people's money, and approving something that costs a lot of money it's a heavy burden for you people to bear. And I think that's part of why so many people have showed up to help give you a better view of what's going on. Like Scott had said, you hire people in an area of expertise to run something. So we're trying to be here now to help you understand how large of an impact that makes. As a society, we've come to accept there are certain elements that we want to support. We want to have schools for the kids. We want to have libraries. And as such, in order to fully function with the library, we feel through the use of people who have more experience than I do, even though I've been involved for quite a while in different elements of it, that the bookmobile will be able to reach out and touch quite a few more people. With the onset of COVID, a lot of people were way late at home, weren't able to get out as much. You look nationally, how the suicide rates have gone up, how people with post-traumatic stress disorder, how they could no longer attend meetings, and just elderly and those people who are not able to get out as much were stuck at home. This provides a means for them to be able to utilize the resources that we all as taxpayers pay for them. We fund the school buses, the mail delivery goes from house to house. You know, we're trying to extend that one step further with allowing people to have the books and other resources that the libraries offer. It's not so much about occupying all their time, but give people hopes, let them fulfill their dreams through the written word and other things. If nothing else, give them something better to do. You know, we've all seen how keeping people occupied can diminish the amount of trouble some of the kids get into if they're going through how-to books. You know, she mentioned weasel raising, it just as a fun example, you know, but there's all different kinds of materials that routinely get checked out that people use for resources on how to do whatever their hobby and interests are. So I think the more we can support that, the better off it would make our society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Shaping?
I'm Jody Shapey. Transparency causes me to say that I'm a supervisor, but I'm actually here for a citizen. I think the biggest takeaway message that I'd like to offer is that a bookmobile at its basic core is a community enabler. The community would have access, both young and old. It's a valuable resource to materials at our local library level, South Central Library System as a whole, and interlibrary loans are also an important feature resource that my family uses a lot. Health, when you're advised to stay at home or out of the community, it is a proven fact that our mental health suffers. We're social beings. We need to have a resource that allows us access to learning materials, entertainment materials, Wi-Fi, access resources to even tax forms. I believe 4-H extension materials, which I've also used. The bookmobile would afford that. It would get it out into the community. A bonus is printer capability. I know a lot of people do not have the means to have a printer at their home. It sounds like the bookmobile would have that available also. Physical books. It's just something you don't need to plug in. You don't need to be anywhere specific. It's easy to bring along and use. It's 100% usable, and it's not dependent on technology hurdles. I would urge you to support the bookmobile. Thank you.
Teresa David was signed up, but we don't see her number on here anymore. She was supporting too. Thank you all. What's that? Oh, okay.
And I promise to keep it
That's okay.
very short, because much of, the theme of my comment is the value to senior and elderly citizens that live on either end of this very long county. Just to give you briefly an idea that I have some experience and I might know what I'm talking about, is that I moved to Adams County in 2000. In October and in December, I volunteered at the Bill Pines Christmas party. I have been the older adult ministry coordinator at the Trinity Arkdale Church for several years. And I continued volunteering for that program after the paid staff position of coordinator went away. I still volunteer at Bill Pines. I was a member of the Citizens Action Committee that brought Faith in Action to Adams County. And now I am indeed on the Aging Advisory Board of Health and Human Services. I just want to go through a scenario of a few family situations that will maybe give a more, vivid picture of what the bookmobile could do. We have an awfully lot of, and I don't know the numbers, I don't know the statistics, of caregiver, care receiving families in Adams County. Often spouses, one is the care receiver, one is the caregiver, can also be a parent
and child, siblings. But, when that situation exists, it can be temporary. Someone can have hip surgery and for a month they have at-home physical therapy and someone has to be there all the time to take care of them and make sure they don't fall. Or it can be permanent when someone has, I don't know, Parkinson's disease or CPOD or severe heart trouble. The person that is the caregiver, in order to do shopping and do chores, needs to arrange for someone to be with their care receiver when they go to town. If they drive, they can drive, they have on their list grocery shopping, go to the bank, pick up the prescriptions, check with ACE. By the time they get done doing that, they have very little energy to make a trip to the library and sort through the books. And they also have to consider that person that's staying with their care receiver and be conscious of their time and commitment. If they don't drive, then they have to get a driver and someone to stay with their care receiver. That makes a trip to the library even less likely. But if the bookmobile came within several miles of their home, the caregiver that drives could maybe leave their care receiver home long enough to go and pick up their books. Or on a good day in the summer, they might be able to get the care receiver out to the car, make a short drive to the bookmobile, let that person then participate in choosing a movie, a book, you know, the music, the CDs to bring home. They might meet their neighbors there that they haven't seen for a long time and have a little chat. And under some circumstances, they might stop and have coffee and a pie before they go home. So that trip to the bookmobile is an event in their life, something that they can do to sort of change up being home day in and day out, being the caregiver and the care receiver. I think that's very important, and it gives them something to take home. And it gives them something to take home. And thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Take care.
Which one? The right beat?
Couple things. Cynthia, when you went through how much the levy was gonna go down if we paid off the 163,000, how much does it go down if we don't approve this? I mean, that's one thing to consider for taxpayers here. Also, I've been impressed by the number of townships that that came in. One time, Mrs. Chakey said that we should, in a other board meeting, maybe we should let the full board decide this because there is so many townships. I don't know yet. I'm really thinking hard about that. But we have no idea if they could ever pay the money back for the bookmobile, even though they might have money coming. I struggle with that. I also struggle with the price of this. I look at the ME's van, which is approximately the same size of this, and we outfitted everything in that van. The van was 40,000. I think it was about 10,000 more to outfit it with the stuff that was in it. I don't know if we could lower the cost by looking at something else besides this type of van. The other thing is, do we look at, could they do it internally in the current budget? Did we look at their budget? Is there any way in their current budget that they could less hours at the current library or something else in that situation? Those are just the beginning topics that we have to look at as county board members to see, because we don't know, even though there's a large support here for this, not every person in the Adams County goes to the library or uses the library in some circumstances. Some things I will say that came up from you is, yes, AF Elementary Library is not accessible all the time because there's classroom in it. But we do have a librarian who takes the books to the classroom in lieu of a child going into that area. We had to do that because of COVID. We're hoping that that will stop next year. So some things are temporary in certain situations based on a pandemic. So I would like to point that out, that we're just not, it's not being utilized because of a certain situation. So I would want to make that perfectly clear. Yeah, I'm still thinking about this. I'd appreciate comments from everybody else.
Mr. Chair, there's one thing that's been bothering me, and it's not to do with yes or no, but more so, it was soundly defeated at this board committee, 4-1, a month ago, or 2 months ago, whatever it was. And yet it came back, and I don't understand the legality of that. It can't be just because Cynthia wasn't there. There's got to be a legitimate reason.
Mr. Chair, I may answer?
Yes.
The reason that it can be brought back, and I actually did get advice on this from Andy Phillips, okay, to make sure. It was defeated under the old board. We now have a new board, so it can be brought back. But for example, if it would have been defeated, say if it's defeated now, well, now you've got to wait 2 years, until the board's on again. So that is the reason that it can be brought back.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Can I answer some of the questions about the funding? Is that acceptable for me?
Yeah, go ahead.
The estate is being divided into 3 parts. We are in fact going to get 1/3 of that amount. I don't know when it's going to come, is a thing. In addition, the library board has some savings because we had started to look into this previously. We also are aware that when I asked the office in Stevens Point about federal development grants, they told me at that point, which is 2 years ago, that we would qualify for $40,000 from them as a grant, not as a loan, as I recall. So we are not without resources. We do not have extra money in our budget, and we are already below the state standards for hours to cover the population we're supposed to serve. So I would really hate to cut out hours if we didn't have to. We can't operate without our people, and that is, of course, the most expensive part of our budget. But the people are what add value to everything. So I think the library and the community would be the loser to have fewer access points just for hours.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I want to first address the levy. And so what would be the impact on the levy? Kyle, look at you, the 168,000, if it just came off levy, what is that compared to the additional 20,000 that would go back on? What's the difference?
So the 168,000, if we were to entirely remove that from the levy, that would decrease the mill rate by 5.8 cents per $1,000 of valuation. But then if we bring that back on, that would, if we bring the $20,000 back on the levy, that would then increase it by 0.7 cents. So the net difference per $1,000 of valuation is about 0.7 cents is what the impact would be by increasing the library levy $20,000.
And then the van, the number that you're looking at, the 185,000, is a not to exceed number. So yes, there are cheaper alternatives. One that was told to me was perhaps we install a ramp and not a lift. We don't know, it's hard for us to get a quote because they want to quote the whole package whenever you're ordering a vehicle. So we have to go with, without, and then get the quote. But I believe the doing without a lift and going the ramp route would save some money. And yes, there's other ways, but I guess when you're looking at that number, just think of it as a do not exceed number for the purchase of a van. And there's a potential of getting refunded when the bequest is settled for the purchase of the van. It's more about that halftime position because, yeah, that's the one that's going to carry forward. You know, that's the one that's going to be carrying forward into future years.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Berskey.
I believe in one of the comments, it was brought up, or at least made aware of that. Town of Rome has their own library, is that correct?
Yes, town of Lester, right, or Lester.
Lester Public Library of Rome, yes, it does not get any county funds.
No, but they would have to help pay for this.
They were gonna help staff it.
They're gonna help staff and provide supplies for it, the collection itself, which you could estimate at somewhere around $5,000 for new materials. We would be able to shift materials in and out from both libraries, which would help both libraries' numbers.
But
Plus
doesn't
half the staff.
Rome cover part of the levy, like 27% of it?
No, by state statute, the county library levy only covers those places that do not have their own library. Their own levy supports their own library. That's why we had to give them permission to form.
Okay, but we're gonna go back to the town of Jackson, in which case, Bill, you got my vote on that one. But that I was outvoted on. But, I mean, they are paying themselves to Oxford, where this county used to pay $5,000, I believe it was. And it went away. I mean, there's no question about that. I'm not sure that we could talk about a bookmobile replacing a library, and I don't think that's what you're indicating.
No, we're
No,
talking
but
about being
you guys are indicating that this is gonna solve all our issues, and it's not. I mean, from the standpoint, the people that are restricted now will still be restricted. And the part about this, yes, they will. They still have to go to the bookmobile. They are restricted to that. It's not gonna come to their front door.
That's why the bookmobile will be equipped with carts, so they can be wheeled into places where people cannot leave their facility. That's what the Dells Library was going to do with their bookmobile right when they left us. They were going to a place and they had carts ready for the people in the facility who are not that far from the library, but who cannot get out.
Okay.
Or it's another option.
It is, but it's not that all the answer to everybody's issues. And the part about being, having a caretaker and all this other stuff, it plays on conscience, but in reality, they still have to have a caretaker and they still have to leave on occasion, they still have to buy groceries. I just don't see where this is gonna solve everything.
Any other comments, questions?
Yes.
Consideration by the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So if you vote to move this on to the full board for, full board input, I will put together a formal presentation about this and you'll see the dollars and graphs and the lookout 5 years. But I didn't want to put in all that effort in a presentation. It's going to take me a while to put together until I knew that this was moving forward onto the board.
Mr. Chair, this is Supervisor Edwards. May I speak?
Yes, Supervisor Edwards.
Thank you for your time today and the committee members. And I feel, although I'm not a voting member of this committee, but as the county board rep to the library, that this should be taken to the full board and let them decide. Because what we're actually talking dollars to the county is the 20,000, not the not to exceed 185,000. Thank you.
Supervisor Scott.
I must have heard something wrong. We are asking for 185,000. We take it to the full board. I mean, is that not right?
Yes, yes.
All right, we're gonna get it off top dead center. I vote to deny.
Motion is denied by Supervisor Barsky.
I'll second.
second by Supervisor Pease. Any discussion or questions on the motion to deny? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. Motion.
Shane.
Motion is approved. Motion to deny is approved.
Short-sighted.
We'll pass it to the full board.
Next, we'll move on to county board possible time change. The county board meeting, which is set in Rule 15 of the county board rules. We mentioned of an earlier time might be better suited for newer members of the county board. So, you know, it's going to, if it goes forward to change that time, we're gonna have to have a 2/3 vote to change the county board rule, correct?
Correct.
So,
I will say, on this, after looking at the last couple meetings, and please don't take this wrong by anybody in this committee, we do have a younger board than we used to have. And that means I'm hoping most of those people are working. And if we move it to an earlier time, I worry that we're gonna have people not being able to come because of work. I mean, even 6 o'clock sometimes, I mean, is early for people. So I don't think changing this rule to something earlier would be in the best interest of the county board.
Is that the proposal to raise it to?
well, that concern came up by somebody, right?
5 o'clock, like we were talking, just because then security is here and you're not paying overtime.
And we can discuss it, you know, we can even try to, you know, ask it at the county board level, you know, we can.
Why are we paying overtime?
For the deputies that are staffing the single point of entry.
Oh, that should be brought up at PSNJ, because that wasn't my understanding that we were funding that for, what, 4 positions? And that they were gonna work their hours till there wasn't overtime.
For my own purposes, this 6 o'clock is fine, and I think if you ask the 20 members, you might get 10 different answers.
Yeah, I know. So. And that's why I wanted to put it on this agenda, so we could have a discussion in a smaller group than bring it forward to a bigger group before that time, so. If we can't get a consensus with 5 people, we're not gonna get it with 20.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I think there was something said about trying to make other municipal meetings too, like this time interrupted with some.
I know the township of Adams meets the same night as this. I don't know how many other townships
most of them meet the second Tuesday, right? Most of them meet the second Tuesday of the month. I think, I know Big Flats did, I've got to find out when the other townships
I
meet
think
that.
the only controversy was last month in April, because every town must have their annual meeting on the 3rd Tuesday of the month.
Okay. So we'll just not act on that and, you know, and I mean, if it comes up in the county boardroom, we can have that discussion and we can always change it at that time. So.
I had one person that told me they wanted it later, so that's what I said you're gonna have one.
Okay, we'll leave it as is. The next item is wage study bids.
Okay, am I good?
Yes, you are.
Perfect. This is to conduct and implement a market salary survey. The purpose is to ensure the county's wage system is competitive for staff and assures the public the county is paying a fair wage based on an unbiased independent market analysis. We received bids from Carlson Detman Consulting and McGrath Human Resources Group for the RFP. Carlson Detman's cost is approximately $64,000. And then any future position placement costs are $300 fee per position. McGrath Human Resources cost is approximately $40,350 with a future placement cost of $175 per position. Carlson Detman would cost considerably more. So my recommendation is McGrath Human Resource Group. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Michelle, how many, I've heard of Carlson Detman before, but what about McGrath?
McGrath has several counties that they have used. Currently, Monroe County just did one with McGrath. Barron County has done one. The last classification that I did for the planning and zoning positions, McGrath was the one that actually classified those two positions for me. So I have worked with McGrath.
That was my only question. I would just want to make
Okay.
sure that other counties are using them, so.
Like just glancing at it, there's like 10 that have used them in Wisconsin that they have on their list.
What amount was budgeted for wage?
Kyle?
Yep, pulled it up here.
I know the last time that we went out, it was 70,000 that was budgeted. So we,
What was this amount, what was that amount again? That McGrath did?
McGrath is $40,350. And Carlson Detman is 64,000.
We had originally budgeted for this to be in 2023, right, Kyle?
Yeah, we didn't budget for it for this year, essentially, but we do have $25,000 of contracted services available from the county manager budget that we could utilize for this. We didn't really have that earmarked for any specific item. And then there was a little bit within the human resources budget. I gotta see what that was earmarked for.
Michelle, do you want to speak to why we're having to move this up?
I think as everybody is aware right now with your positions, it's hard to find people. The counties around us are all doing market surveys. The positions that are the lower paying positions, your park aides, your library aides, we're having a hard time finding them and then competing with Wisconsin Dells, or our competition is hurting us. We have Juneau County, which just did a 6.5 increase this last year. So moving it up is because our comparables are around us. We will find that our staff starts to leave us if we don't remain competitive. We've done a good job the last few years staying competitive with our COLAs and then doing our market surveys. So it was a recommendation to do one this year to stay competitive.
Yeah,
To implement in 2023.
It's only got a compound if that cost of living increase keeps escalating the way it is, you know. I mean, yeah. Yes.
I struggle with other counties that go off the board and do more with the CPI than what's necessary just to attract people. As much as I would love to give our people as much raises as we can, CPI at 4.7, putting it on your base every year is financial disaster for all of us counties. And we have to really, if people are chasing that money, I mean, there's a lot to to move or travel when you talk about that. I mean, you have to sell your house, find another house. So I don't know if we really need to do a wage study this year. I really don't. If it's scheduled for next year, maybe that's the time to do it. We know prices are going up. I mean, and we're probably gonna get a raise, so that's where I'm at. I guess I'm struggling with trying to say yes with this.
Can I speak to that?
Right ahead.
Our professional staff, they aren't moving. They're traveling. And the first year that I was here, I wasn't in this position, but I will say that we lost 3, 4, 5 social workers to surrounding counties because we weren't comparable. They're willing, unfortunately, to chase the dollar. Right now, we're competitive. I just want to throw that out there. We do have professional staff coming down from Portage, Wisconsin Dells, Boston, surrounding areas, and working at Adams County.
Yeah, Supervisor B.
We spoke, I'd like to make a motion to keep it in 2023, the wage study.
Motion to keep the wage study in 2023.
Second, Jeff.
Second by Supervisor Perry. Discussion on that motion.
I guess I'll say something right away. I agree with you, Michelle. We do have people coming from places because we did a really good wage study and adjusted people's wages appropriately. The last time we did the wage study, and I think we got everybody in line, including the sheriff's department, and we're keeping up with CPI. And I don't know if we can do any more than that currently, to be very truthful. And everybody's struggling to find workers. And yes, I do believe the lower we're going to struggle finding people in the lower area of our wage scale, but we'll just have to keep working at it. A good example is those nurses. It took us 18 months to find 2 nurses. So I understand the struggle, but I also think the last wage scale did a really good job of what it was intended to do. We were able to recruit people appropriately and fill jobs that haven't been able to be filled. So I don't think one more year of waiting will be that bad.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Barski.
Yeah, I want to agree with you, Rick. However, I know we've been involved with starting people above the minimum wage, our minimum wage. Or starting wage, I guess that would be more accurate. And we've had to ante up the kitty even now to do that, to get these people in here. And I think what you alluded to, by 2023, this wage study is gonna be higher than it is now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. All I know is that Health and Human Services is the prime example. It's tough to get those positions filled, and that's not the only department that's having issues. So to update this a little sooner than what we thought is necessary, I think becomes something we should look at seriously.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So one thing I'll mention that when we say 2023, so if we move the wage study up to happen in 2022, it would be for the 23 budget. So if we wait until 23, that's now going to wait until the 24 budget.
Depending on what the wage scale bears out, though, we don't necessarily have to go with the wage scale, correct? We could go with a recommendation from either you, Cynthia, or whomever, or we could go with the wage study, correct? What happens if it comes in that we offer enough? We're just gonna leave it where it is, correct?
Michelle, do you want to address that?
Yes, that is correct. So It is budget. You rely on your budget and your funds. So if there, and it's some positions you may find that stay status quo. Some positions we may be behind in. It doesn't state that all positions are going to be going up. It's just by positions and classifications. But if we can't afford it, then you're right. Cynthia would come to you and we tell you that we wouldn't be able to afford it, or we could do it in phases, steps to afford what they're suggesting. Did that answer your question, Rick?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I just want to add something else because looking at 2023 budget. So when we developed the 2022 budget, we did look at the Midwest CPI and coming up with a wage increase. We did a 4.6% wage increase. That was our recommendation to start out with. We were able to work that into the budget. Now, I just pulled up Midwest CPI. April's numbers won't be out till tomorrow, but March, the 12-month increase was 8.6%. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now with what we're going to do for COLA increases potentially. We're going to have to think about that. So it's the COLA increases, or the wage study may also help incorporate that and may make it a little easier to justify the wages by doing the wage study. I just wanted to point that out.
I might be wrong, but using Bob's philosophy that if it goes another year and it's just gonna cost us more, didn't we just save a year's worth of wages?
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to have the wage study in 2023. It's the motion on the floor. Not do it this year.
Cynthia, would you define something? You just said that if it's in the 2022 budget, the wage study will be done in 2023. And if it's in the 23 budget, it'll be done in 24. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So if we go off for the wage study in 2022, it's going to be for the 2023 budget, because we've already budgeted for 22. We're kind of locked into that budget. And if we wait till 2023 to do the study, that's going to impact the 2024 budget. And Michelle also mentioned that this doesn't mean it's going to be hard-flung across the board that everybody's going to be increased. There's going to be those who get increased and those who do not. And then others are just going to be status quo because they could be right where they need to be. So it's kind of hard to determine until the study's done. That's why we do it, on what the total dollars are going to be. And so Kyle, am I saying that correct? That if we do a study in 2022 this year, it's going to be for the 23 budget.
Right, we would implement it with 2023 budget and wages.
And then if it's in 2023, it'd be for the 24 budget.
Right.
And the thing there, so Kyle mentioned that CPI, it scares me. I think that it's at 8%. So we have to kind of juggle between the CPI and then getting this wage study done. And we got to make sure that the wage study didn't hit, and then now what's the impact of the 8%, and is it in the study? So there's.
Well, this inflation is killing a lot of people. And unfortunately, a lot of our taxpayers are on fixed incomes. And they're the ones that have to pay for this.
Any other questions?
I'll just, maybe, Mr. Chair, if I may add. So we are limited on what we can levy. We're limited by growth. So if we don't have growth in the area, we cannot increase the levy. So just good for that. So just because CPI went up 8 doesn't mean we have the money to pay for it. Kyle and I are gonna have to figure out cost savings, because you mentioned before, it's not just about generating revenue, it's about cost saving initiatives too. We're gonna have to get very busy to find this 8%, and it scares me, I'll just say that.
The motion is to do the wage study in 2023, correct? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
What do we have? How many nays? How many ayes?
We're nays. Nays. Aye.
Aye, that was 9. Next item then, calling the 2012 and 2014 debt.
I will let you start, and then I'll interject.
Okay, yeah, so, we got an estimate on how much it would, how much cash we would need in order to pay off the 2012 and 2014 debt, that was issued. I think Cynthia covered in her presentation, was it May 2nd or whatever, for county board, what that debt was actually issued for. So the 2012 debt, that was county highway projects, and the 2014 debt, that was the dispatch center. So what was that? Sorry.
No, they're just
Oh.
asking. Supervisor Gabarski didn't hear you, so.
Okay.
Reiterate what was.
Sorry. Yeah, so we still have 2012 and 2014 debt outstanding for those projects. The total that we would need to pay it off is $2.7 million. Is how much we would need. There may be a little added cost for legal counsel for that. I didn't get that estimate yet from them. But right now, 2012 debt is scheduled to be paid off in 2025, and the 2014 debt is scheduled to be paid off in 2027. So we would still then just have the 2019 debt outstanding, and that was the debt issued for the MRF and the cell 5 at solid waste. Yeah, so $2.7 million would be how much we would need in order to pay that off. And it would be a savings in interest of about $160,000, I believe. If we were to call that debt and pay it off effective June 21st. So it's just something that we wanted to bring forward to see what the Administrative and Finance Committee thought about doing that.
And money's gonna come out of the general fund?
No, the money would actually come out of debt service. So we have about $2.8 million sitting in debt service right now, but we still have sales tax yet to collect in debt service, and we have a large transfer of cash from solid waste over to debt service. So we have the cash available in order to pay that off just in debt service alone. Our unassigned fund balance, and this is in a totally separate fund, the general fund is, I believe, about 35% of our 2022 expenditures, roughly right around there. So we do, the county's sitting pretty good with our cash balance, so we would be able to pay that off and realize the savings in interest costs.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll just add, so we do not depend on the levy to make our debt payments. We use sales tax, and as you have seen, we're getting excessive amounts of sales tax. So why not utilize that money to then pay down our debt with a cost savings initiative? Again, this is another one of those cost saving initiatives, almost $200,000. most municipalities do rely on the levy. It's a general obligation debt. Okay, so when you have general obligation debt, when you're setting the levy, I had talked before about having a levy limit for operating. That's dependent on growth. Your area has to have growth in order for that levy to move up. Debt, however, is dollar for dollar. You can drive a levy with debt, but we don't do that. We make our payments on sales tax. So, again, that's where that 168,000 was sitting. It was sitting in debt, but we didn't use it for 4 years. It was just sitting there. So the levy was just putting money into the debt service, roughly $400,000. So we're just trying to utilize excess reserves, being fiscally responsible using excess reserves to pay down our debt. So this, what we're, okay, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were done, Stan. Go
Hold on.
finish.
I was just saying that that's what we're asking for today, is to be able to move forward with, putting some numbers together, working with the bonding agency and getting this debt paid off.
I actually agree with Sophia on this, and I would move, I don't know if this is actionable or what you want with this, but I would absolutely want you to pay down this debt.
I mean, it's not, we need to get numbers first, right, to then vote on it.
So the underwriters will put a resolution together for us that will reflect the numbers, so then we'll see what the fee is gonna be. Everything's gonna be transparent about what the transaction is gonna be, but overall, we are going to realize to me, a substantial savings. One time, it's just a one-time savings.
Motion would be to have Tom and Cynthia.
Yep, move forward with this debt consolidation in payment.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion is second. Lori Varsity.
Yeah, what kind of savings you mentioned?
It was roughly 150,000 to 200. We're still trying to find out what they're going to charge us. Sometimes they don't charge a lot for just paying off debt.
Well, that's,
The underwriters.
that would be the next question, prepayment penalty. Do we?
If they're callable, there's.
They're callable.
Right.
All right.
Any other questions? We'll see it again. I mean, we'll just get the numbers and then we'll put resolution will come back to us. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay. Motion carried. Coming agenda items, we got a couple of things that will carry forward from the next meeting. Meeting date.
Oh, yeah, you better get on your calendar.
Yeah, somebody should have went to the district meeting for me too. Now I got another. I should have nominated Bob Gabarsky, is what I should have did.
You'll be in the last,
Yeah.
The third, I have a WCA Board of Directors meeting on the third. The 10th looks open.
are we going back to 9 o'clock?
Yeah, so, yeah, thanks for changing it. So, I had another meeting.
So I won't be an all day next.
No, you won't be an hour. So the 10th, yeah, because you don't meet till the 21st, right, that one?
That's correct.
Okay. So 10th, 9 o'clock? Okay.
I'm just getting back from Vegas.
We'll have coffee for you.
Yeah.
So, okay. Otherwise, I'll put the meeting adjourned. Thank you
You'll
all.
be able to afford enough gas to come to the meeting.
See you, Bill.